Hi, day 3 here of the 12 Days of Christmas Films as told by Miss Amy Smith. Um, so today is the first entry in regards to the adaptation of a Dickens classic, and I think you all know which one I'm talking about. Yep, it's Great Expectations. No, it's not. It's A Christmas Carol. And yeah, it has been done many, many times, and there are a couple of different versions on this list, and they're very different. And I've kind of chosen three specifically because they are very different. Um, there are a lot of adaptations that are straight copies of the book, sort of more or less. And there are some that deviate, there are some that are pretty faithful but have a twist. And so I kind of put a little bit of everything in through the days. But I split them up because you don't want to be watching it 3 days in bounce. You know, you get the gist of the three ghosts and all that palaver. So, starting off, I've just decided to do them chronologically. So, today's film is the Alistair Sim version of Scrooge: A Christmas Carol, and yeah, it's the classic. If you want a flat out beginning to end, this is the Dickens book version of A Christmas Carol, I think that is the best version you can go for. And I'm saying this partly because I love Alistair Sim and I love George Cole, and the fact that they play Scrooge at different ages, I love. Absolutely love. Because I love both of them individually. Anytime you get to see them both together on a film, I really enjoy that. The only thing I'm sorry about is that they don't share scenes because obviously they're both Scrooge. One's a young Scrooge and one is normal, sort of beginning of the story, this is how he is kind of Scrooge. Um, so yeah, it's very much just the book, really. Um, Alistair Sim is Ebenezer Scrooge. He plays Scrooge with just the most bitterness I've ever seen anyone play Scrooge. He is the definitive Ebenezer Scrooge for me. He's angry, he's afraid of things, he's bitter about things. He gives a lot of depth. He's not just a miser and I'm grumpy. There's a lot of kind of understanding of why Ebenezer Scrooge is the way he is in Alistair Sim's version of him, and I really, really enjoy that. There's a lot of times where he's basically admitting the things he's afraid of and admitting the fact that he's angry about certain things, and I quite enjoy that little bit of Ebenezer Scrooge backstory. So you all know the story. Basically, Scrooge is a horrible old man. He has had a business partnership with Jacob Marley, and Marley's died, and he's taken over the full shebang. He lives in Marley's old rooms. He scrimps and saves money. He doesn't care about other people. When charity collectors come to his door on Christmas Eve, which was the custom during the Victorian era, he basically says, look, we've got workhouses, why has anything else got to do with me? Send people to workhouses, and if that's not good enough for them, then just let them die on the street. What do I care? He has a clerk by the name of Bob Cratchit, who has a family but is on an absolute pittance of a wage, but he's basically a good egg and he don't want to risk trying to find another job or rocking the boat or anything. He just wants to plod on with his life and enjoy his family at home. Scrooge has a nephew called Fred, who he doesn't really have a great relationship with. In a lot of adaptations, it's never really specified why he doesn't have a great relationship with Fred. What I really like about this adaptation is that you see Scrooge be absolutely heartbroken when his sister dies. His sister gives birth to Fred and then promptly kicks the bucket, and Scrooge is just devastated by this. You know, he doesn't have a good relationship with his father. In this version, they reverse the ages of the brother and sister. Traditionally, Scrooge is older than his sister, and in this version, she's older than him, but the mother died giving birth to Ebenezer Scrooge, which is why Dad doesn't like him very much. He kind of has never really got over that. So that's why Scrooge stays at school for the Christmas holidays and various things, and why he doesn't have the greatest affinity for Christmas. So it's all backstory. The more you're watching this, the more you think, oh, I get why Ebenezer's like this. So anyhow, his sister dies. He's gutted. She's the only person in his family he has a good relationship with. He can't bring himself to have a relationship with Fred because it's very similar to how his father couldn't bring himself to have a relationship with him because he killed his mother by coming into the world. So that's a really interesting kind of dynamic there. And yeah, so he goes home one night, sees the ghost of Jacob Marley, who tells him that he's working his way through chains that he's going to have to drag through the afterlife forever, evermore, and tells him that three spirits are going to come and see him. Now, these three spirits, there was actually a lot of really good effects in this film. It was made in 1951, I want to say, and there's a scene where Scrooge looks out his window and there's all these spirits going through the earth, and they're all faintly like translucent and superimposed on each other. And it's really, really clever for 1951. You don't need CGI. That actually, as an effect, holds up pretty damn good. And it's however many years old, 60 odd years old. I don't think you can really begrudge that. So yeah, further rants on CGI. Sorry, it always comes back to that, doesn't it? But yeah, it's brilliant. He goes through, sees all the ghosts. The ghosts are like, this is your past life. You get to see why Scrooge is angry. You get to see why Scrooge is upset with Fred. Scrooge is like, oh, I kind of forgotten that he was my family. I just thought he's the kid that killed my sister. In a way, you know, I'd forgotten that we should have this relationship. That's a good reminder. Goes to Christmas Present, comes along, takes him off to see Bob Cratchit. Bob Cratchit's having a whale of a time with his wife and kids. His wife can't bring herself to raise a toast to Scrooge on Christmas Day because she's like, you worked hard for all that money, Bob. Why should we thank Ebenezer Scrooge for giving you a pittance? I don't understand it, but I'll do it for you anyhow if that's what you want. He goes to see Fred at the party that he's having on Christmas Day, and he thinks this is actually a really good time. I wish I was here. Then the Ghost of Christmas Yet to Come comes along and obviously takes him to where Mrs. Dilbert is flogging his bed sheets after he's dead, just raiding the rooms and selling stuff off for him. Yeah, and that really frightens him. And weirdly enough, the bloke that she takes it through to sell is Miles Malleson, who, in my mind's eye, I always think of as faintly middle-class vicar, and I think that's because of The Importance of Being Earnest, where he plays a middle-class vicar. So to see him as a bit of a street urchin kind of really, like, rattles me a little bit. I'm a bit like, that should not be, you should not be doing that, but whatever, that's the cast as it is. It's nearly 70 years old, I can't do anything about the casting now. Not that I could have done, not that I have a great influence over the adaptations of Dickens' works, but bear with me. But yeah, that's kind of how it goes. And he wakes up the next morning and he's like, it's Christmas Day, I'm going to get Bob the largest turkey in the shop, which is probably going to get cooked by about New Year if you're lucky, over a spit the size of it that it is, you know. Got to plan these things ahead. But yeah, he goes off and buys Bob all this stuff and looks after Tiny Tim and goes to see Fred and brings presents and all the rest of it, and tells Bob Cratchit he's going to have a raise in his salary and is basically a reformed man. And yeah, it's the traditional Christmas Carol story. What more could you want from it? It's very, very accurate to it, apart from the switch round of the birth order of Ebenezer Scrooge and his sister. It's very much a straight adaptations of Dickens, and I think that's part of the reasons why it's been lauded as one of the best. It doesn't muck about with it. It doesn't try and impose anything on there, because Dickens did try and impose kind of a social conscience and a slight kind of almost liberal theme in there, in terms of, are you doing all you can for the poor? You don't need to put anything else in there. I think it very much ticked all the boxes of the book that it needed to. And I think that's why it's a classic. And I think that's why you need to start with that one, because everything else is a deviation from this version. And it's Alistair Sim and George Cole, and it's A Christmas Carol. How much more festive can you get?